I never thought I'd see the president of a homeowners association clambering over my fence like a cat burglar in the middle of the day, clipboard tucked to her chest like it was a sheriff's badge. The thud of her sneakers hitting the mulch still plays in my head, because that was the exact moment everything in my quiet little life took a turn I wasn't ready for. I froze with my phone in my hand, half laughing, half panicking, watching this 50-something woman march across my backyard like she owned the deed. And when her eyes met mine through the kitchen window, I realized this wasn't just some eccentric neighbor or a crank with too much free time. This was the start of a war I never signed up for. My name's Jack Morrison. I'm 39, an architect by trade, and all I'd wanted when I bought this house in Birchwood Hollow was some peace. No HOA, no committees, no endless bickering about mailbox paint colors. Just me, a studio out back, and the freedom to plant whatever trees I damn well pleased. That's what sold me. Freedom. The realtor whispered it like contraband. Best part, she said. You're outside Birchwood Hollow HOA. No dues, no rules, no headaches. I poured everything into this house. New porch, new roof. That cedar fence I built with my own 2 hands. Cameras tucked into the corners, not because I feared crime, but because I feared neighbors. Turned out, that paranoia was the smartest investment I ever made. At first, it was almost funny. A folded notice slipped into my gate. No stamp, no address. HOA violation. Grass longer than 3 inches. Signed by President Marjorie Kessler. I laughed so hard I framed it and hung it in my studio. But the notices kept coming. My curtains clashed with community standards. My hedges threw shadows at the wrong angle. My awning was non-compliant. None of it made sense. I wasn't, even inside their borders. So I did what any rational guy would. I emailed her politely, attached my deed, the zoning map, county confirmation. Case closed, right? Wrong. That's when she doubled down. She showed up at my gate in the mornings, clipboard in hand, buzzing the intercom like a debt collector. Sometimes she brought backup. 2 board members trailing with cameras and tape measures, whispering, pointing at my shrubs like they'd caught a crime scene. I put up a laminated sign, private property. Trespassers will be prosecuted. 2 days. Later it was gone, torn clean off. And then one Saturday I was sipping bourbon, spinning an old record, when the intercom went berserk. Buzz after buzz pounding on the wood. Her voice cracked through the speaker like thunder. Mr. Morrison, you are not above the law. You cannot ignore community violations forever. I muted it, thinking she'd give up. Instead, I watched on my phone camera as she dragged out a little step stool, propped it against my fence, and started climbing. My jaw dropped. This wasn't a prank. This was real. She muttered to herself as she swung a leg over the top like some suburban ninja. I hit record, dialed 911, gave them my address. Minutes later, she was strutting across my yard, scribbling notes, peeking in windows like she was auditioning for a home inspection show. By the time the cops arrived, I had the footage ready. They rounded the corner and found her poking at my drainage spout like she was the county engineer. When they told her flat out, "Ma'am, you climbed his fence, that's trespassing," her tone snapped from righteous to furious. "I am the president of Birchwood Hollow," she barked. "I have authority." They cuffed her on the spot, marched her to the cruiser while she shrieked about lowering property values and promised to get their badges. And I just stood there at the window, watching her shoved into the back seat, grinning like a kid who just got justice in real time. For a moment, I thought it was over, but I couldn't have been more wrong. Within days, the video of her climb went viral. I didn't post it, but someone did. Overnight, she became Fence Climbing HOA Karen. Millions of views, reporters, emailing me, podcasters wanting interviews. My inbox filled up. I didn't care about the fame, I just wanted quiet. But quiet doesn't come cheap, because Marjorie came back swinging. Only this time, she didn't use a step stool. She used the system. Suddenly, inspectors showed up at my door like clockwork. Zoning, fire, environmental health, all citing anonymous complaints, unpermitted structures, hazardous chemicals, illegal pesticide use. Every claim bogus, every visit a waste of time, but they kept coming. And with them came the whispers. Neighbors peeking through blinds when I walked outside. Rumors spreading online. A meth lab, barking dogs, cannabis grow operation. Pick your poison, I'd apparently done it. The hit that cut deepest. A client in Portland pulled a $50,000 contract. Too much heat around your name, they said. That's when the anger started curdling into something heavier. Fear. Doubt. I sat at my desk one night surrounded by stacks of notices, inbox filled with cancellations, and thought, maybe I should have just cut the grass, swapped the curtains, whatever it took to shut her up. Maybe this was my fault for standing tall. For a minute, I almost believed it. But then I looked at my deed, my permits. The papers that proved every inch of my land was mine. I wasn't crazy. I wasn't wrong. I was being targeted because one woman couldn't stomach losing control. And that was the moment I knew. I wasn't backing down. So, I hired a lawyer, Vanessa Cole. Sharp as glass, specializing in property rights and HOA abuse. She heard my story, flipped through the stack of nonsense, and didn't even blink. Trespass, harassment, defamation, civil liability, she said, ticking them off like groceries. Then she tapped a manila envelope I'd received anonymously. Leaked emails from Marjorie and her board. "We cannot allow this man to set a precedent," one wrote, and Marjorie's reply, "If no one else will enforce standards, I will." Vanessa's eyes lit up. "This isn't personal. This is organized harassment. And if we link the county officials she's leaning on, this could go criminal." Then, out of nowhere, an ally emerged. Diane, the HOA secretary, slipped a USB stick under my gate. Inside were minutes from meetings. Proof Marjorie had tried to pass a rule extending HOA authority to properties outside their borders. It was rejected. She ignored the vote and acted like it passed anyway. Buried in those files was another name, Carl Benton, a zoning officer. That was the missing puzzle piece. I brought in a private investigator, Evan Shaw. He caught Marjorie and Carl meeting behind the clubhouse at midnight, folder exchange under a flickering lamp. Suddenly, all those inspector visits clicked. They weren't random. They were orchestrated. She was weaponizing bureaucracy against me. So, we struck back. Vanessa filed a lawsuit naming Marjorie, the HOA, and Carl Benton. Trespass, harassment, conspiracy, abuse of power. We asked for damages in the millions. The news ate it up. Architect sues HOA president for harassment. Birchwood Hollow residents started whispering in a new tone, fear shifting into resentment. At the next board meeting, Marjorie tried to spin it, but the vote was unanimous. Suspended. She screamed, hurled papers, stormed out. I watched the footage from a hidden cam across the street, and for the first time in months I smiled. But she didn't go quietly. My house got egged, yolks dripping down my studio windows. Cameras caught two hooded figures, adults trying to, look like kids. Then a letter under my gate. "You are causing disruption. Consider de-escalating before it spirals further." No signature, just a threat. I tossed it onto the evidence pile. Soon after, Vanessa called with the bombshell. The district attorney was opening a criminal investigation into Benton. Bribery, conspiracy, harassment. Weeks later, charges filed. And Marjorie? She was next. In line. Subpoena waiting on her doorstep. Her empire of rules, her kingdom of fear. It all started to collapse. The HOA itself dissolved. The board voted it out of existence. The wooden sign at the entrance ripped down like it had never mattered. And Marjorie, she was left facing lawsuits, criminal charges, and the debt of damages she'd personally have to pay. The woman who once scaled my fence claiming authority now stood on the edge of losing her own house just to cover the judgment. Didn't cheer. I didn't throw a party. I just stood by my window, looking out at the same cedar fence she once climbed, and breathed the quiet I'd nearly forgotten. The kind of quiet I fought for. The kind of quiet I doubted I'd ever get back. In the end, her voice didn't matter anymore. She could scream about standards and harmony until her throat gave out. But nobody was listening. And maybe that's the lesson. Boundaries matter. And sometimes, the only way to defend them is to fight back until the bully has nothing left to stand on. So here's where I'll leave it. Was I right to fight her tooth and nail? Or should I have just bent a little, cut the grass, swapped? The curtains, played nice to avoid the storm. You tell me. Drop your thoughts in the comments, because I have a feeling this debate isn't over.